All right, welcome any viewers, which maybe there's a couple at this stage. I don't have the stream up at this point, so I won't be able to tell until I can tell. But welcome again to No Dice, the bi-weekly show where we discuss the podcast and not the Twitch stream. But we do it on Twitch, so it gets a little confusing. Uh, but today we are going to have one of our fabulous cast members from the podcast, friend of me and everybody else who's on the podcast, excluding Jay. I don't think they're friends. I think they're just like enemies who talk too much. I don't know. But today we have the wonderful, the long haired, the craftsman, Mitch, joining us today. That's right. Whenever he feels like showing
You
his
forgot
there he
Grumpy.
is. I did forget Grumpy. Grumpy
You
is
forgot Fat. You forgot Grumpy. You forgot Tired. There's a lot. There's a lot.
I guess I just it all slipped my mind. I'm sorry.
My
I don't know
repertoire
what I
is
was
very
thinking.
vast, like my waist circumference and my debt.
Yes, of course, of course. Well, welcome to No Dice. I hope you're excited.
I am here.
That's a big first step, right there.
Yeah. I know you've been trying to get me on Twitch for a long time, and as a general rule, I am not rated as safe for public. But here I am.
That's true. But you know what? I knew I could get you at least for one night and one night only, and that night happens to be tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm here. I mean, I know I'm not supposed to talk about.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm excited to have these conversations. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I hope everybody else caught that. Did everybody else catch that?
I mean, I said
Whatever.
it. Jay can't mute me, right?
I don't think so.
He can't mute me, right? He can't just like. I mean, I don't think I'm going to say too much, but he can't cut me off, right?
Nah.
Okay,
I'm in
cool.
control here.
What's that little red microphone thing that turns on every now and then?
Don't worry about it.
I'm sure it's nothing.
Yeah, I wouldn't concern yourself with it.
Yeah, sure. So what's up, man? You've dragged me out of my hole. I was busy being non-productive.
Well, it's time to up that productivity by approximately less than one magnitude. And and I want to discuss with you. Okay, so the big thing we're doing here in No Dice is we're trying to expose our Twitch audience, what little Twitch audience there is right now, hopefully more, and our YouTube audience, which is this will also be put up on our YouTube, to our podcast more, get a little bit more podcast exposure for the Twitch
we're
audience.
Trying to expose people. Hang on, I got
this. Yes, we're trying to get tons.
See, this is why I'm not allowed to be on video, ladies and gentlemen.
This is how we get all the exposure right here, no doubt. We're also trying to, do the same with our loyal podcast viewers. If they're looking for more, more Torchlit Tavern, more us wacky dudes, they can come here and get ready for the next campaign. So that's a big part of the goal here. In case anybody doesn't know, or in case somehow you missed the memo. And I'm just gonna shoot you some questions and see what your answers are. So how's that sound?
Sure. Pretty good. Hang on, let me dick around on my phone a second here, and
dicking around.
Be that guy. Now, actually, I'm gonna see if I can get some of my other nerd fam up in here.
Yeah, see what you can make happen. You know what? I'm gonna join you. If you're digging around on your phone, I'm gonna start digging around on mine.
Yeah, no, I should have done this earlier, but as everyone knows, I'm super up on tech.
Yeah, of course. You're the most tech-savvy guy I know.
Yeah. They have me running the Discord. They have me running business. It's horrible. Make them stop. I mean, I'm good at it, but I don't like it.
That's why I'm here. I'm good at it, but I don't look good doing it. Wait, that's not what it's supposed to say. But I cannot wait to expose the rest of the world to your kookiness, your craziness, and what we're doing here. This will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Let's see. Let's see who's bored.
Yeah, let's find out.
Is there a way to know who's viewing us? Like, does Twitch tell us these things? I know
Yes,
that
you can look it
as
up.
an adult in 2020, I should absolutely know this by now. But I just
I
figured
mean, you
out how to get
should.
on Twitch today, so here we are.
There's a lot of things you should know as an adult in 2020 that I don't think you're fully cognizant of. So, like, that's okay.
It's true. It's very true. I know I got bills,
So
and I
we,
know that money don't grow on trees because it's closer to fabric than paper. Mitch's random fact. There you have it. Though probably everyone knew that at this point. That's fairly common.
whew, I hope so.
So what I'll
So,
give them instead is it's closer to linen fabric than paper because people might not know that.
ooh, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was closer
Yeah,
to
it's
linen fabric.
basically a linen as far as I
Ah,
recall. I could be wrong, but
well, what a neat fun fact.
yeah,
And and let me tell you, I love that bit. I love Mitch's fun fact. I can't wait for more of that in the coming uh, campaign and coming podcasts. Obviously, uh, you've been with us from the very beginning. You've been with the podcast longer than I have.
I've been with this podcast since before the beginning.
Yeah, you were you
With
were
Bruce,
pre-existent.
literally, it's I think it was 3 games. I think Bruce was in the game world 3 games before the podcast happened. Bruce is literally the history of the world.
Oh, absolutely. And if you want to even more, Jeff's fun fact of the day. Maybe, hopefully, I'm not spoiling too much, but if so, we'll find out. I'll just get Jay to yell at me later.
Spoiler warning.
Jeff's Jeff's fun fact is that Mitch is actually it has been as a player a defining part of the world several times already because Jay has used this world before bringing it to the rest of us as in the podcast, but also as in
Oh
I've
shit,
never played
yeah.
in one of his worlds before.
That other time I was on that other D&D run in the same world too. This next campaign will be my second recorded, but fourth run in this contiguous game world.
Yeah,
Different
absolutely.
characters, mind you, but
Yeah, and from the stories I've heard, you've had some effect on the world that we play in at large. So
that's what I hear.
you're a real living, breathing part of it, which is fun, right? That's pretty interesting.
Not sure what that says about Jay's writing that he's using mine, but here we are.
You know what? I'm not sure what anything says about Jay's writing, but I know that it's fun. So that's my
No, I've been playing with Jay's world for like a real long time. God, 10 years ish. I don't know.
yeah.
I'm old now. The Alzheimer's is setting in. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's a very well developed world.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because Jay was a basic ass. I don't know if I can say bitch in the
Yeah.
beginning, and his story wasn't as unique as it is now. But like there were some high defined unique points, and some other it was just like D&D has an answer, paste. And then like watching the world grow because of what characters have done, other characters even before me, and then things
Yeah.
that he's added in, ways that he's tweaked the world has been super cool. It has a much more unique game world. And since
Yeah.
Jay's listening before that goes to his head, you suck.
Make sure we don't
I
keep
got to
him
keep
on
him
too
on the
high a
level.
pedestal.
Somebody's
Yeah.
got to keep him humble.
Exactly. Got to keep his feet on the ground. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely there. I hope as a listener, but definitely as a player, you can feel how lived in the world is at large, how much time is put in, and like as a blossoming DM myself, I can say that like I there are times where I'm definitely envious of that. Uh, Watch out, he's still holding auditions for replacement players.
Like I
Uh,
keep telling him, it's a good call.
You know what? It is a good call. It's a smart call. You never know which one of us will be
I
like
keep telling him, just
cross
you
the
know what,
line.
can me. I'm busy. I'm grumpy. I'm an editing obnoxious. Just cut me. He won't let me. He won't let me leave. I can't escape.
Well, I'm sorry. You just make great characters. I mean, to be full disclosure, Bruce was my first favorite character, and if like I exclude the character I made, because I'm a bit of a narcissist, he's still my favorite character of the podcast.
I mean, of
And
course, he is better than your character, obviously, because I made him.
obviously, yes.
And if anyone's ego can compel against Jeff's, it's mine. Oh my God, you can use backgrounds in this. Oh man, people should not give Mitch technology. I'm a All right. Is anybody in the chat? What background do you want? Oh, yeah. Who's this person? Who's this
I don't
person?
know.
Conwick. Conwick. Sorry, Conwick. All right, Conwick.
Conwick, yeah.
What kind of background should Mitch just ruin this interview with? I've got ocean floor. I got fireworks. I got space. All right, Conwick. It's up to you.
It's up to you, Conwick. Let's see if you have anything to say about the matter. All I got out of him was an "oh shit, what's good" at this stage,
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
a lot.
Water,
For the
for the
win!
win.
Oh
All right,
shit,
I'm
there
being
it is.
drowned. Solid call.
Good call. Good
Solid
call.
call. Jay. All right, let's
It's a
see how.
painful way to die, and I think
You know what?
if
That
anybody
actually worked better
deserves
than I
that.
thought it would. Oh, look at that background clipping. Here, let me
Yeah.
just.
Well, don't move too much. That's the key, right?
Yeah, well, I've got the winged armchair too. Let me see if I can clean this. Oh, okay. So the key is proper posture, which I'm surprised I even found, being me. All right, there we go. There we
There
go.
it is.
All
There
right,
it is.
I'm
You're looking
underwater.
great. You're looking great. You're underwater. Which is definitely different from where you left Bruce.
Yes,
Wait, you
very different.
like literally the opposite of where you left Bruce almost. I mean, we couldn't
Pretty
bury him in the
much.
sky, but fuck, if I could, I would have. I'll tell you that much. But you got as close as you could. Bruce, the only character
So
who,
actually, I got a question before we talk about Bruce's death. How did that bow work out for you?
you know what? Fucking great when I got some goddamn arrows, you piece of shit.
But you're a ranger, right?
Have you ever seen me use a bow before?
But rangers always have arrows.
Yeah, well, you were wrong.
So that was actually a really funny one. Probably the best troll that Bruce ever got on Grim was that one. Complete accident. Several of the best moments were just complete flubs and oopses that ended up being narratively hilarious. To this day, that's one of my favorite, and I can't even take credit for it. I'm going to, but I can't.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good. You know what I appreciated about it is when you circled back in the epilogue to that moment, you were like looking through your stuff and you're like, oh shit, arrows. And I was like,
because I did have them. Bruce on his sheet canonically had a quarrel of 100 arrows. Just never used them because I sold my bow and I forgot to get rid of the arrows. That quarrel of arrows is the most forgotten podcast. It became relevant twice. Once to make a joke about screwing you over.
Yeah, no, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I really, I was there during the recording. Obviously, I really had to make sure I was muted so I could laugh in the background when when you did that for sure.
Yeah.
But with that being said, you got the only character who chose their own death. Who
and
chose
the DM
death
didn't want to let me have it.
Oh yeah, the DM. I'm sure Jay fought you on that tooth and nail.
But, yes and no.
Well,
it was a long process. Like real talk.
How was choosing death? Tell me how that went.
I knew that Bruce was gonna die at an emotionally impactful, narratively inconvenient time from the very beginning. Because the dude's just old. Y'all were putting him through paces his body was not in shape to go through. So that's why, like, from the very beginning, he had some memory issues. Again, some of those were me because I suck. But a lot he had memory issues. He had yeah, Hey, do you have a question about the character before you go? I mean, you might already be gone. How on time is this?
Not extremely.
Okay, there's the lag. It's like what, 1 second?
Yeah, it's like at max
All
3.
right. Peace out, Conwick. So
But
yeah,
go on.
I'd known for a long time that that's how that was going to play out. That he was going to go early, and the more he got invested in the other players, it's
It's
Jay. He
Jay
doesn't matter.
clarifying. Yeah.
The more that other players got invested in him, and the more that he got invested in other players, it sort of started sculpting when was a good time to do it. Because if he does it too early, it's just homie's gone. Roll a new alt. Like it doesn't matter. It didn't carry any narrative weight, and everything we do here obviously is to carry narrative weight, right? I'm gonna go to
Yeah,
space
of
now.
course.
I like this one better. The
Hell yeah.
Milky Way, I think, though the color is off, so I'm not sure.
Hard to say.
This guy, that's a big one. I want to know what that one is. So yeah, it really just grew that story, and so I had a shoot. We settled at like what 200 episodes or something. I think Bruce closed at like 120. Probably between 50 and 80. I knew when Bruce was going out. Like I didn't know what was happening in the story, and I was like, "So Jay, Bruce is gonna die before the end," and Jay goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yes." Like a ways before the end, and Jay is like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Cool." Yeah, so I think it's coming up. Yeah. All right, this is soon. Yeah. So I'm thinking the next 3 to 4 episodes. Wait, what? What do you mean? What do you mean the next 3 to 4 episodes, Mitch? And that was a hilarious conversation. I was like, homie, I've been telling you for like a year. I've been counting down.
I've been
I've been
ready.
counting down. I've been telling you. It's been the dawn of death has been the twilight of his life has been encroaching rapidly.
just like
But
just like Bruce, Mitch is tired, and I'm ready to end this character. All right.
yeah, right. And so like when it came up to the train stuff, I was talking to Jay, I was like, what's a good time? And Jay and I have had a lot of off the books, off the record, off the chat, out of the podcast talks about things because we work together and we have no friends. So we bullshit and complain. And our lunch break consists of complaining and bullshitting and talking about podcast stuff. So I sort of like I don't wouldn't say that I helped build the world, but we both bounced ideas back and forth and we sort of sculpted little parts of the campaign together to fit in Bruce's narrative, which is one of the reasons that it hit so hard. Like I think I
Yeah.
wrote his story well, but also Jay was really receptive to working in when and where. So exactly when Bruce died wasn't scripted, but when it came time, I was like, okay, I want to write this in so it doesn't just suck, and so we have time to make it meaningful. And so we sort of scripted that last episode, right? Not a
Yeah.
whole lot, but there was deliberately nothing going on to make sure that there was time to discuss all of the things with Bruce, to go over his wills, to go over his exit scene, to have this sort of like last dinner with him. And then what brought us to that point was Jay's like, well, we're going to be going to a place really far away. Okay. But we're going to get there really fast. Okay. And then we're going to go back to Griffinport. Okay. Sure, bud. And like he was trying not to spoil it, but I'm like, dude, I'm dying. This is it. It's the last app. And
Yeah.
it's what do we do? And
It'll
so
be the
he's
end
like,
for me.
okay.
Just tell me how it's supposed to
Yeah.
end.
So he loosened up a little bit more. He's like, okay. And he's like, we're gonna be still kept some details, clandestine, which is fine. But it was
Right.
basically you're gonna take the rocket train. I didn't know it was a rocket train, but you're gonna take the rocket train really far away. And then you're gonna get on a boat and you're gonna go all the way back to Santitas. Wrong campaign. All the way back to Griffinport. And that's when I sort of decided, it's like, okay, because we had done the Goliath climb the mountain thing. It's like, okay, so we got the elephant graveyard thing going on. Homie knows he's old. Homie knows he's not in great shape. Homie knows he's not going to be good for that long of a trek, which is why, canonically speaking, Bruce actually died several episodes after he left, but he knew that if he didn't leave then, he wouldn't be able to make it to his ancestral resting place. So
Right.
that was sort of the listener wasn't exposed to it immediately, but one of the things that continued to grow with that character's narrative down the line was finding out that Bruce had a choice to make that help the team carry the torch, which has kind of always been his thing, or pass it on because he's got to do what he's got to do.
Yeah.
So the whole narrative was sort of centered around that on your terms, pass it forward, carry the torch, support the team, but end things on your terms if they're going to end anyway.
Right. It very much Bruce in all of the podcast as a whole was really about he represented, to me at least, he represented accountability and at the same time sort of taking control of the things that you can, like taking ownership of your decisions. I think it's very much what Bruce always encapsulated to me as a viewer, and even as an, a player at the table. It was
I forget that you started as a listener. Like
it's been a
so
while.
long,
Yeah.
so long. But yeah, that's really what I was trying to go for with Bruce is, we can all roll dice and hit things, except me. I can roll dice and miss things. But even if I could roll dice and hit things, not as interesting. So I wanted to have a character that had a strong impact on the world around and to the listener and to myself. So I built Dad, but I didn't want to do cookie cutter movie Dad. It's overdone. It's not meaningful. It's just a movie copy paste, boring.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to do with Bruce was realistic Dad,
Yeah.
pumped up
The
and supportive in so maybe not everyone's real dad, but realistic dad, real dad in that he's not perfect and he knows that and he's trying to do good, but he still screws things up, but he wants you to do better.
Yeah. This guy
Do the
who
best
wants
you
to
can.
the
Be
best
accountable.
upon. Yeah.
Understand that you won't always be good enough, but always try,
Right.
And I think that it I
Yeah.
think that it went well from what I've heard from listeners and players and all of that. So
I definitely think you really knocked that idea out of the park. And like, it's funny to me to think or to like hear you say like from the beginning you made this character that was very dad like because like listening to the first ones it doesn't feel like he's ready for that. Like obviously he'd already done it and like he'd lived that life to a certain extent, but like at the same time he becomes this dad to this adopted dad to these people. And definitely from a purely listening point of view, for a long time it feels like he's that Bruce is just like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'll be your adoptive dad, but like, ugh, I don't really want.
yeah.
I don't know if I'm the best guy for this. Listen,
And
like,
Bruce had grown a lot from what he was too. Like in the original iteration of Bruce, which was pre-podcast in like 3 or 4 eps, it started with a different party and then a D&D thing. We ran a few ups and then it just crashed. Shit
yeah,
happens. And
yeah,
but in that app, the characters weren't as serious. In it, the world didn't go very far, so it's hard to say. But it was much more lighthearted because we had a guy that wanted to be a fashion mogul, and I don't even remember what the other person wanted to do. Be in a band. There was a fashion mogul, and someone wanted to be in a band or something. So Bruce was just the old chucklefuck criminal that had been around too long and had street cred, but didn't back it up. So I sort of kept that idea of his origin point, but then I added some more serious backstory. All that stuff about his daughter was new to this campaign. That wasn't
yeah,
from the precursor. So all of his real development was for this campaign, this podcast, because initially he was just a dude to roll dice at things. He was
yeah,
funny, he was grumpy, he was old, he was in bad shape, but it wasn't significant beyond that.
right,
And so there are some callback jokes that no one will understand because they weren't there, like the dangling people. That was his signature go to because people don't like being dangled out 2, 3 story windows. Makes you nervous, right? And then he sort of grew organically away from all of those things. Yeah. So here we go. We got Jay chipping in. It was a fashion mogul, a band boy, and a librarian. Yeah, it was not an
fantastic.
exciting campaign initially,
I don't know about you.
and
That sounds
yeah, but it was
exciting to
great
me.
to be able to. It was great to be able to play him. I mean, Jay made it pretty exciting, as exciting as any of those three things can be. But it was nice to have this new group. So Bruce, canonically, because I just kept that as canon for him, but also just as the adaptive period of new party, new campaign, new story narrative. It was okay. I'm with these guys. We're gonna rough things up a little bit, like we always have. Okay. Oh wow. Oh no. Oh, y'all need an adult. Well, I don't. Shit. I don't know if I qualify as an adult, but I qualify as an adult more than y'all do. Oh no. Oh shit.
Yeah.
I'm dad.
What was
Y'all,
funny
y'all need Jesus.
what was funny is like we both played like okay, so me, you, and Strana played three old characters as the three oldest dudes, and
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 Strana
like
had played in that original campaign, but that was an incredibly brief character. It wasn't Bop. It was a ranger that was one shot double crit max damage murdered by Canton, I believe, in the sewers. Like he rolls in. Strana's a monster. Don't play D&D with Strana. He rolls in there and he's
I'm
like, "I'm
aware.
doing all the crazy shit," and we're like, "We know, Strana, whatever." And Jay's like, "Fuck you. Have a dude with a crossbow." And dude with a crossbow had Strana, had his name, had his number, had his social security card, had his CCV code, and had his mother's approval. He went down in one round. We were low level, but damn, which is great for me because Strana has murdered 3 or 4 characters that I've tried to play with him. He's a monster. Don't play D&D with Strana.
The dice taketh. I
The
agree.
dice taketh indeed.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just not meant to be.
So
Um,
Strana also had some of the backstory of the city, which was cool too, because he played Bop, who was new, but he had that backstory of like sort of how things had worked a little bit already.
right. Yeah. No, Bob and Bruce definitely got to feel very much like they're a part of the world, which is something that I know that moving into the future, without trying to give away too much, is something we're working on for all the rest of the characters because the rest of our characters didn't really feel like they're a part of the world. Like Grim felt like he was a part of the world, but not this world, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was
Metagaming
the
for
biggest,
good.
yeah. And that was a big thing to deal with in and of itself. I do think it's funny that like you became the podcast dad and like Grim and Bop became the crazy uncles, and
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
they we each had our sort of like weird point of views where it was like, listen, listen, your pop's right and all that, but like but
I feel
if you
like
do it just a little different.
Grim was like weird, was like crazy mom. Like mom and dad were separated and then they like got a drunk fling and got back together and now they're trying to keep it together for the kids, but they are not on the same level. They do not agree. They're
Yeah,
not like there's just no coordination.
yeah. They
How old are
the
you? Yeah, they got along that many years ago once. And
well, the funniest thing, right, is
go talk to your fucking don't
I,
listen to your mom. Go talk to your dad. I don't
the funniest thing is I totally agree. Grim and Bruce are definitely at that sort of like weird, crazy mom and dad dynamic, but
Bob
it
is
was
definitely
like
the crazy uncle.
100%. But
Definitely the crazy uncle.
uh the funniest thing to me is that dynamic only applied when the kids were around, right? When they
Yeah.
you were there, that dynamic was there. But like as soon as we got an opportunity to just be Bruce and Grim, it was like, oh yes, this is why we got together in the first place, isn't it? All the
Oh
romance
yeah.
is back.
Kids are out, found some wine on the top of the fridge, leftover pizza. This is gonna be a good time. I just hate them fucking kids.
uh, but absolutely, it was a good time, and Bruce is a great character. I do want to say, if you could have ended it with Bruce any other way, how would you have done it?
I wouldn't have. That was it.
Really, like
That was it.
hard
Jay
sold on it.
tried to
Like that
talk
is
me
the
out of it.
only way.
Jay tried to talk me out of it. Jay tried to delay it. Jay tried to be like, but Bruce could come in at the no. Old man fucking dies. Makes everyone sad, yanks on the heartstrings, and if I do it right, delivers like 1 or 2 last final lessons from dad on the way out.
That's great. That's great. You were
And I think it
full
all hit.
committed
So
to it.
like I even after the fact, like I don't think I could have come up with a better ending, honestly. Even if
Yeah.
you had given me free reign to just write out whatever ending. Jay helped me with a little bit of things just to make sure, because like it's D&D, right? So it's kind of hard. Bruce
Right.
left in the night. That's fine. We teleport to him because he's not 32 miles away yet. So Jay worked with me to structure some things to make it unfeasible or ill-advised or not possible within the limitations of D&D to get that finality. But
Right.
I mean, it was very much just fit into what was already going on in the world, and I don't think I could have given a better ending, honestly,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I
You know, it
didn't
was
want him to have the hero's ending, right?
right.
He wasn't. His death wasn't supposed to be a tragedy. He wasn't supposed to be some war hero. He was just from the very beginning, like his character sheet, everything. He's always just been a dude doing what he's got to do, trying to make it through, trying to make the world a better place on the way out. Not that he
Yeah.
necessarily is particularly qualified on any of those things, but doing what he can. And I wanted his death to be that way too. I didn't
Yeah.
want him to have some big grand hero's death. I wanted
Yeah.
him to be iconic and relatable. And that was sort of a throwback to my own life because, like, my dad died when I was like 18 or 19 or something. I'm old. It's been a long time. But one of the big things that I wanted to do with Bruce, and I know that hit particularly hard to some of the listeners, not in like a bad way, but in an ow my heart way, is like the
Yeah.
last thing I said to my dad was, "Yeah, whatever, man. I'll see you later," and I didn't
Right.
ever.
And
I
that's
didn't
one of
even see
those things.
his body. They threw his ass in a box, threw his ass in the oven, toasted him, and they gave him back a box of dirt. Right. So like one of the things that I wanted to do with that with Bruce is not that sort of brutal way that I had it happen, but sort of the better message of enjoy whatever time you have.
Right.
Do what you can with it, cherish it, take it, hold it, have it, keep it, and know that one day, too soon, probably without any warning, you won't anymore. So, make the most of what you have. And I feel like that we got that to hit really well. And that was one of the ones
Yeah.
that was one of the ones that for me, I wasn't sure. Like I wasn't sure if we could get that to hit well. And that's why the sort of countdown to Bruce's death was so long. Because I wanted it to have all of that emotional emphasis, but
Right.
not just be, lol, he's gone.
Right. You wanted it to feel
Such
like
a
you
fine
wanted
line.
yeah, you want it to hit, but you don't want it to be like at too important a part. You want it to have this sort of like sometimes it just happens sort of
Yeah,
feeling.
I wanted it to hit you in the
And
heart. If you aim too high, it hits you in the face. If you aim too low, it hits him in the nuts. But you gotta calculate
yeah,
that barometer, right? You want to get it
right,
right in the heart.
right in the heart. No,
A whole
I
lot
think
to
you did
hit,
really
but there's
well.
only this much of it that's your target.
Yeah. No, I think you really hit the mark too. I really, I did enjoy Bruce's ending. Like as a player, obviously I was like, son of a bitch, this cripples us. But like
Yeah.
as a listener,
FYI, your DPS and your tank, he's gone. Deal with
yeah.
that.
I was like,
P.S.
yeah,
Here's a bow
yeah.
with no arrows.
I
Here's a
walked
bow so you can
away.
stay out of range, but no arrows.
Yeah. I walked away to my own death. Fuck yourselves. Right? Like that's how it feels like as a player for a
I
second.
thought
Like,
about hanging out with
son
you
of a
guys for
bitch.
another couple weeks. Figured I was better off dead. Literally walking to die.
But definitely as a listener and as like a storyteller myself, I was like, oh, that's good. That's good. And like, you know, as an active participant in telling that story, figuring out how like my side of the story was going to express during that was also very challenging and interesting. And uh I agree. Jay Bruce was a symbol. But it's you know,
I want to say
it was
that
a
Bruce almost wasn't even a symbol, but he was kind of like the reflecting pool, right?
yeah,
What is it? It's a fucking shiny bowl with water, guys.
right,
Like you hit it, it goes ding. But what it's used for, how it affects you, how you can use that to look into yourself and see yourself, to focus on, the ripples in the water, the greater things, the finer things. And that's a lot of what I was trying to do with him is Bruce was I do this, I'm guilty of this with absolutely every single one of my characters that I've ever played in D&D, in LARP, in FPSs, everything. I'm always a glorified NPC. I enjoy sculpting and uplifting the experience of the other party. And Bruce was very much that way. I'm going to give
Yeah.
you opportunities to grow that the DM just would not, does not, will not have the resources to apply to, like throwing rocks at Roy.
Yeah.
Like Jay could have put something in for that for his growth. But the way that I had set up Bruce's archetypes, it was so much easier for me to do it. And
Yeah, it was
it
more
worked so
organic for
beautifully.
Bruce to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was organic. It was meaningful. It wasn't heavy
right.
handed. You don't have that awkward railroad feeling where it's like, and suddenly, fuck you. It's the worst.
Right.
A
Right.
guard suddenly appears and just knows because he needs to just know.
Right. Because the lesson is out here. Nah, it's okay.
Yeah.
You were already there for that. You know, as a player, as a role player myself, I do enjoy very much having that conversation with the DM and like being a part of things on purpose. And I think that was something that I got to do with Graham, and you definitely got to do with Bruce. And I think that adds to the overall experience to a certain extent. I also think that it's funny that you feel like a glorified NPC, but like I said, you were many people's favorite character. You were a standout for a long time as like not just a NPC, and no matter how much it would feel like Randall's character, whatever name he was going by at the time, no matter how much it feel like he was the main character, like there were a lot of times where I think that listeners were just as involved, if not more involved, with whatever was happening with Bruce than they were with his characters. So I think that's kind of funny that you just feel like part of the background, but when like from the outside point of view, I know a lot of people feel like you were a part of the foreground without doubt.
Yeah.
But we've discussed a lot of this. I do want to say, what about the ending of the campaign in general? Either surprised you or made you happy? Like not even just Bruce, but the whole
Oh,
ending
I
surprised you,
haven't
made you
listened to that shit.
excited you. You haven't even listened.
I haven't
You're
listened.
the worst.
I don't listen to crappy podcasts. I haven't listened to that shit. I don't even listen to podcasts. No, actually, so I don't have a lot of time to listen to things at home. I was listening to it at work, and then they moved me in an office with real people.
Ugh, gross.
Yeah, gross indeed. So now I can't have things playing. They got mad at my classical music. I listened to classical music, and they told me that was so. I just got busy after that and haven't caught up. But I did listen to, I think it was like 7 episodes after Bruce left or something. I got a few of them, and
Yeah.
I definitely like how it played out. And I've had Jay give me the cliff notes.
Yeah, of course. I think we've all kind of been
Also,
over it at this
shout
stage.
out for Jay. Auditions are open. He didn't say this, but the minimum requirements are don't be Mitch,
Minimum requirement.
and
Yeah.
it's a real low bar, guys. Real low. It's the kind of bar you don't want to limbo under.
Yeah, you won't make it.
Step over it, maybe. Limbo under it, absolutely not. You're just not thin enough because you're 3D. So we're talking about something. Oh yeah, end of the podcast. So
Yes.
I've listened to a bit of it, and I've had Jay catch me up. I've sort of kept appraised that way, and I think it was a super solid ending. I do need to catch up and listen to the very end of it. I just
Yeah.
haven't gotten around to it.
Well, I
I
guess
caught up a bit of it because I did my last scene with Bruce at the very, very end, and that one was absolutely designed to be a nut shot.
Yeah.
That was just
Sometimes you hit
right
him
in
in
the
the heart.
jujijum.
Sometimes you hit him in the nuts.
Right in the jujijum.
Right in that bass deference. Uh, well, then I guess we'll have to save that question for another time when you've actually had an opportunity to fully listen to it. But I as a participant in the final episodes, really do genuinely hope you enjoy it. Like I think that we got to a really fun place. We did some interesting things, and I think that you know you touched on the idea that you didn't want for Bruce to have this hero story, and I think that between Jay and the rest of us, whether it was intentional or like on accident, I think we very much made this story where like the hero's story is not the story that any of us really told. And and there was definitely a couple instances of people stepping up, and a couple instances where people had to learn to step down. But your stereotypical like hero's tale
Yeah.
isn't a story we told, and I think that's what makes it really what made it interesting for me as far as coming to the end of it. And I know
I
that's
think
something
that's
that
probably just a staple of the Torchlit Tavern in general. I mean, even when we do Monster of the Weekend, like everything we do, we don't really do the overdone hero's tale, which at least for me is what makes it interesting. We have
yeah,
more organic characters, we have more vested characters, we have characters with more engendered flaws that just like we're not the hero. Like
right.
our Halloween episode that we just recorded recently. And when you watch those heroes, and I think that's what makes it great is we
I
just sort of
couldn't
have
agree
that
more.
style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And oh, also one last trivia note about Bruce that I definitely recommend. I didn't restat Bruce moving from the Funsies campaign to the podcast campaign because, in my words, fuck you, Jay. God damn it, I'm gonna make you finish a fucking campaign.
And you did.
And then I died early on him. I got him twice. But Bruce as a character was entirely randomly generated. I just rolled dice for everything. The only thing I re-rolled was initially I got Human Barbarian, and I had already played that. So I re-rolled those two because I didn't want to play something I had already played, just to have a new thing, a new experience. I re-rolled and I
Right.
got Goliath Fighter, and I'm like, okay,
All right.
let's
All right.
go.
Let's give it a
And then
shot.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, what's my background? Criminal. All right. What's my age? Old. Sure. Here we go.
Why not? Yeah.
And I think Randall said that his character was also a random roll. I believe it was
Yes.
too.
Randall did the same thing. Yeah. You and Randall were on the same page with that.
Like
I
D&D
definitely,
doesn't give you crippling things when you're making a
you know
character.
what?
Like it really doesn't. So making a
Fifth
random
edition,
character is so much fun. Oh, I mean
fifth
fifth. I
edition
mean fifth.
gives you
I don't
so
talk
much
about the other
stuff
ones.
too.
Yeah.
Fifth edition gives you so much stuff too because it can get like if you really get into making a random character, it'll give you personality quirks
Yes.
and like all these other like there's like tables upon tables upon tables where if you're like I don't know what I want to make, you could just roll that thing out and you can have a fully fleshed character with like what he's good at, what he like, what his likes and dislikes are
What his
like to a
code
certain
is,
degree.
what his
Yeah,
flaws are, what his personality traits are. And there's it's actually very similar to something that I did in my LARP game. That I did independent of like the D&D 5e, and I'm referencing D&D Beyond, the character
yeah,
creation there.
yeah,
I did it independently of that, but it ended up being very much the same because LARP, it's just D&D IRL, right? But one
yes,
of the things that I found is a lot of people don't have that sort of creative drive for the 100% unique, genuine, new, fully developed character. Like it's
yeah,
more than they're willing, able, or prepared to think about. And so in my life game, it's the same thing. When you build your character, what's your species? Uh, do you have any modifications? What's your background? Who were your parents? What did you do for a living before you decided to become an adventurer for some reason? And all of those
yeah,
things give you that sort of core base, and you can play with just that.
right, yeah, of
In
course,
5e specifically, and in the D&D Beyond software, not sponsored, which we were, is great for that. Like you
yeah,
can play a character with
killer
just
for that.
that. You're
Yeah,
not going
with
to
just
have any of the stuff, but you can like it gives you a fully fun. You can use it for NPC creation. Honestly, like it's a great
right.
character
It
gen system right out the gate.
right out the gate. Yeah, it definitely. Coming from having been a guy that like
Hashtag Duke Elabrath had 1 feet.
coming from a guy who had played other editions, and editions where they didn't have tools like that, where they were really a lot more. I started with a second edition, and that second edition is like, hey, bro, make what you want to make. Here's some bones for you, and do it from there. And like, coming from that and having had that creativity already, it was really weird at first to be like, I was going through all this stuff, and I was like, do I need all of these things? Like, Now we're just like
Yeah.
rolling to make a character that like I think I'll do that in my time. And like
Who's
at first
making
I
my
was like,
character, guys?
right.
Is it me or you?
Like who's doing this anymore? Why do you want to know these things? Fuck that. But like after I like took some time and
I'm not
assessed
gonna
it, I
tell you what
realized
my birth date is
yeah,
because
no,
it
it's
has
like
that. It
yeah,
has that. That's a thing. Like
yeah,
there's a spot for
has birth
it.
date and it has like some here's some flaws and here's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't think I want to roll on this flaws table. Like I think I can come up with my own flaws. Thank you very much. This is my psychological
I
exam of
looked through.
myself.
I just recently built a character. What was it for? Halloween, and it was the same way when I
No,
restructured.
Soulsmith.
Oh, I was the DM for Halloween.
You sure
What
were, bud.
what year is it? Shit. Hang on. Oh no. Oh lord. But yeah, so like I was going through, I'm one of those people, right? So I was going through rebuilding my character for the next campaign, and I'm looking at all the flaws, and I'm like, these aren't nearly crippling enough
Yeah,
because
I
I'm
know
that
that.
guy.
Yeah, I know that you and Jay are both pretty big on crippling flaws. Jay is a huge fan of dump stat. He's like, have one shitty stat,
Yeah,
one super shitty. And I'm like, listen, I've got 10, and you don't even get that many stats. So can I have one good stat? Can we trade?
I
Like,
I used, what is it? Linear? No, array, standard array. I used
yeah.
standard array for the first time for our not Halloween episode. This last couple weekends because crap, that's tomorrow. Fuck, I didn't make a character. I'm not rolling dice. Screw it. I like the idea of the randomization of rolling dice. I hate that I have to roll dice like 30 times to get a spread that's not bullshit one way or the other. For the listeners that don't know, my rolls are crap. I roll on both ends of the dice. I don't roll in the middle. I'm pulling 4s and 19s. Jeff and I once, somebody had the audacity to say it wasn't that bad after a recording, and Jeff and I just recorded it. And dear God, we went through like 33 rolls to get 2 stats above 10. We each went through
Yeah.
about 30 rolls to get 2 stats above 10.
You
It
know what?
was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I have this. As you've just said, I'm right there with you. This sort of like I have this like certain I don't know if it's a curse or what, but like if I'm making a character, it's going one of two ways. Either I'm gonna roll a ton of stats that are just like, hey bro, you made a commoner. And I'm like, ha,
Yeah, to
sick, dude, thanks.
Calabrath.
Or or I'm gonna roll like
God.
within like two rolls, I'm gonna roll like a really good set. Don't get me wrong, not often do I roll a god, but I'll roll like oh, this one has two 17s and an 18. That's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. You know,
And
maybe one of those is maybe one of them ended up being a 10. Well, it's
I
okay.
had I had once, I think it was, I don't know what character it was. I've rolled a few now. It's been a while, right? I rolled and I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna put my dump stat in that. My 4. That's my dump stat. My high, it was like 4, 6, 9, 7, 5, or some just horse shit. My highest stat was a -2, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't
Yeah,
play this character. Like
it's impossible.
it's
Yeah.
too bad. If everyone were that shitty, you could do it. But like if we have homie rolling 10s, he's gonna be so much better at everything than me with no modifiers. So I rolled again, and then my 17 was my dump stat. And I'm like, come on, somewhere in the fucking middle. Just give me fucking something to work with. So I just
Yeah,
roll
I
my
don't.
handful of dice until I get a spread that's got some highs, got some lows, got some middles. Because yeah, it's just the dice is nuts.
Yeah, no, it's weird. Like I said, for me, and it's based on the character too. It's not like a it's not like oh, like sometimes I just roll really well. No. If I'm making a character and the first four rolls are shitty, hey, guess what? I'm gonna do it 27 more times, still gonna be as shitty.
Yeah,
But
right. You roll,
different
it
character,
trends.
two roll sets, and I almost always roll two because I just want to know what the second one would be. Within two, I'm like, hey, that's it. That's a good character. I might even be a little stronger than I need to be, but that's okay. You know.
Jay and I subscribe to the dice tell you the dice are right kind of mentality. Me less than Jay because too many fucking fours. Not every
You
one of my
know.
characters is entirely incompetent at the thing that when I'm adding 10 and missing, come on, man. Come on. It's the one thing I do. I've this is my thing. It's my specialty. I've taken proficiency. I've taken double proficiency. What the hell do you mean I missed? Stop. But
Yeah.
like normally, one of the things that outside of just my horrendous bullshit trends, like my dice will do me solid on a lot of things. Like this is a super important thing that like needs to it canonically would make sense for my character. Not even necessarily the outcome I want, but my dice would be like, you can have that. Here's that 19 you haven't seen in a year and a half. I'm like, fuck you. I mean, thanks, but
Well,
fuck you.
the worst part for me
Sling me
is
some
like
12s, damn it.
the worst part for me is I do a lot of middling, and it'll just be like sometimes I'll be like, yeah, killing it, and other times I'll be like, oof. I do a lot of middling though, just like I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
And then some days I'll be like, hey, let's get into this combat. I'm sure that Jay can probably like think back to at least a couple of times where he's like, I want you to win this, and I'm like, I missed. What do you mean?
That's
Yeah, I missed again.
yeah, that those are the ones that, so
I
I
missed.
am so bad at cheating. Jay told me Bruce doesn't miss 3 times in a row. I always forget. Because there's so many times. There's so many times where I'm like, I swing and I miss. That's fine. Shit happens. I swing and I miss. That's annoying. Whatever. I swing and I miss. That's bullshit. I swing and I miss. I'm going.
Yeah.
I missed again. I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. Or the worst is like, hey, bud, here's something you're supposed to be able to do. I'm gonna throw you like speaking as a DM, I know how
The
this goes,
limelight
right?
from you tonight, and it's
Speaking as a DM, I know how this goes, like where you're like, hey, here's an easy one, right? The DC on this is like 5, dude. Just like make it like I don't want you to fuck this up. And it'll be like I rolled a 2, and like I can see
yeah,
Jay because we do when we record it's like this. I can see Jay be like,
yeah. We can see Jay just. You know what? Roll with advantage. I got a 4. That's still a fail.
why are you
Oh,
like this?
you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about what happened with fucking my character from the Soulsmiths episode? Dude, that was nuts. That's
Yeah,
how you break D&D, ladies and gentlemen. You got to listen to at least the first episode
yeah,
once my character gets off in a combat just to find out the atrocities you can do in 5th edition.
yeah. It's
And that works
wild.
for
I didn't know
piercing
you could do
weapons,
that.
and that works for slashing weapons, and that works for cleaving weapons, and I think it works for blunt weapons. I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah.
It was wild.
I didn't
It
know
was
you could do
wild.
that. I definitely didn't know
I
you could do that.
didn't like. I probably cheated because I'm shit at rules, but like I'm pretty sure that if it says I can re-roll dice once, as long as I don't re-roll it the same way more than once, right?
Yeah.
I just happen to have 3 ways to re-roll.
Hey, if it's not written explicitly that you can't, then you can.
Right, right,
That's
right.
how rules work. Take that into your real life, kids. Laws are bullshit.
Yeah, laws are for the people that follow them. Take that
uh,
however you need to.
yeah. Now let's get in. Okay, so we've spent a lot of time talking about last campaign and Bruce, and it's partially because he's great. I'll admit that, and what you did with him was also great. But a big part of what I wanted to do with this, and we've spent almost an hour on just this in and of itself. So we're going to spend at
You know,
least a little bit of time. At
can we
least a
do an
little bit of time.
intermission?
Do we? or
Yeah.
can we?
Well, I've got an old man bladder. I'm going to. I'm asking if we do. I'll be right back.
We'll do an intermission. Go ahead. All right. While he's on intermission, I'll just have a little talk with you, our couple viewers out there. Thank you for tuning in. I hope to see more of you in the future. Uh, you can, as always, catch this on our YouTube if you happen to miss it. And if you're watching it now on our YouTube, that's great. And Jay, also, I want you to know, since I know you're sitting there listening, please post about our YouTube videos on some of our social media. Make that a mandate if you could. That'd be great. Uh, uh, that being said, once we get him back with his old man bladder, we're gonna get into some discussions about next campaign a little bit. We're not gonna go for too much longer, maybe another half hour ish. I will, but you too. Oh, this will be great on YouTube. Me just yelling at Jay, because like there's no context there. It's great. But definitely, we're gonna talk about next campaign because it's what we're gearing up for here on No Dice. It's a big part of the reason we're doing this at all. We're excited to end one, but we're even more excited to start another. So we're gonna give you some little tidbits about what Mitch will be doing for that, as much as he's willing to give away. Because I'm not gonna twist his arm, mainly because we can't see each other in person. So therefore, I just can't. I can't digitally twist his arm. Uh, I could barely digitally twist his nipple. You know what I'm saying? It's just not easy. Uh, but definitely we will get into that. And if you want to see us some more, we are here every week, either doing this, well, most every week. Holidays make it complicated, but most every week, either doing this or we're doing a actual game that I run. And you can find us on YouTube with these videos as well as any of our podcasts, which are just, audio with no video there. You can also find our podcast on any of the services in which you find a podcast. Personally, I'm a big fan of Spotify. Shout out till they sponsor me. And go take a listen. We have recaps at episodes 50, episode 100. I think we have another recap, or right around episode 100. We have another recap, and
50 and 100.
yeah, and go take a listen if you haven't already. Join us in our conversation and in our world. Now that we've got Bruce and his old man bladder back,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and get into some conversations about next campaign. All right, so you ended last campaign with Bruce, going out on his own terms. You started with a randomly rolled character that you decided like, yeah, I'm gonna run with this. What are some of the things you're excited for next campaign? You have a new you and I have talked obviously off screen about your next character, and I'm not going to give away anything that you're not going to give away. But what do you want to talk about? What are some of the things you're excited for?
So, and I haven't even told Jay this. I'm just playing Bruce again. Yep. I'm
You
just gonna run
fools! He
Bruce a
never
whole
dies on
second
the
time.
mountain.
Yep. He gets rezzed by something or something, and there we go. No, I'm absolutely not. I am trying to figure out how exactly I'm going to approach my next character because it is designed to be antagonistic. He is automatically at odds with the party's origin alignment. Here's our DM. Bruce stays dead. I fought too hard for him to die. He stays that way. It's because I hurt his feelings. It's because he wanted to kill my character and he never got to.
Well,
I
to be
won.
fair, he hasn't killed many of our characters, so he who knows who he was trying to, but he failed on all accounts.
So my next character is, and also one of the world setting has become very conflicted following the closing events of
Oh
this
yeah,
last campaign. I
definitely.
think I'm allowed to say it's been a minute, but I've said it now, so I don't care.
Well, I think I'm almost positive we've definitely discussed that there will be a break in
Yeah,
time.
it's
We're
later,
not
right?
going to go
We've discussed that.
immediately after. Yeah, we're definitely not going to be immediately after the last campaign. There's going to be a little bit of a time gap there, and I'm almost positive that's something we've discussed already, and that's very exciting. The world is changed not just from our actions, but from the actions of time passing.
Yeah, we've sort of pushed things in a direction, and they continued driving
Yeah,
without us because we weren't there. And
of course.
some of the characters were there. Bruce obviously isn't; he's a rock. But like Grim was
Grim.
set in motion to do things. Dylan was set in motion to do things. Roy was set in motion to do things, and we have taken our hands off the wheel on that. But Jay has taken further action. I don't know what it is, but he has continued to sculpt the world around how those characters were left, where they were set, and what they would continue to do. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what happens there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I'm with you 100% to see where uh he's sculpted the world based on where we left it and based on what we said we were gonna do and the characters that we made. Definitely excited for that. I mean, the prologue did cover a lot, but like the prologue didn't even come close to the amount of time that there'll be in a gap between the two. I don't think, and so
Did you read your packet that Jay gave us for character lore yet?
yes, I did read my
Ah,
character
shit.
lore
I haven't read
packet.
that yet. I got to read that.
I read my,
Is Jay still
I read
listening?
mine.
There's no screaming in the chat, so probably not.
I read my character lore packet, and me and Jay have been going back and forth because with my character, without giving up too much, we're definitely. I expected this from you.
There's the disappointment I worked so hard to cultivate.
Me and Jay definitely have been going back and forth on introducing a race that I wanted to play to his world and like what his thoughts were on it and what mine were in a very similar way that you did with Jay and Bruce. I think based on the conversations that I've had with him and you about it, but I I have done all my research and I'm very excited for my character. But what about you? What's on the horizon? We'll discuss me
So
later every week, every
I'm
other week.
playing a I'm playing a character that is actually so years and years and years ago, back when Jay and I were both younger and more attractive and in shape and not fat and still stupid nerds. Played a D&D campaign. And it set thing because Jay has always run canonically sequential games. Different place in the timeline, different place in the world, but sequential. Just like the two campaigns. Different time, different place, but it's on the same timeline and it is sequential. It's not none of that back in time bullshit.
Yeah.
And so the first campaign I played with Jay, actually, I played a character who did some things. They were widely regarded as not okay. And the character I'm playing is a very far a ways down the line shockwave ripple effect of that character. What that
Th-
character did, which was all just a big misunderstanding. It went down very badly.
oh,
It
of
started
course.
as an unfortunate misunderstanding and ended as a tragedy. And so I'm playing a character who is giving me a little bit trouble given modern context because we've had some real world conflicts that have roared up in the last 2,000 years or so that I'm trying to be courteous of with consideration, the very recent. And
Yeah.
so, you know, but he is, I'm playing a character who is from formerly a bunch of druids. And they're not okay anymore because of things that have happened. These homies, they're not all right. And they are very angry and they are very lost and upset and they want to etch a sketch it. They think that's the fix, right? Reset
Yeah.
button.
Just shake
It's
it up.
the
Yeah.
only fucking way at this point. Just
Yeah.
reset the whole thing. And so anyone who has that sort of hard reset mentality, if you're on the Etch a Sketch, that's not good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, of
That's
course.
violent and destructive and apocalyptic for you. If you're a sketch on the Etch a Sketch, you don't want somebody to start shaking it. And that's sort of where this character is coming from. And it's the Torchlit Tavern. Our characters are going to grow. But one of the
Yeah.
hard things for me is running this character in a respectful manner, not pissing people off unintentionally and unnecessarily. I will absolutely piss some people off intentionally. I always do that. But you don't ever want to hurt someone on accident, right? And
Right.
so trying to balance this character's actions, being that he is hyper lethal, hyper violent, by common standards, entirely immoral. You know, he's
Yeah.
just so far divergent from the normal, modern, real world human beliefs, but even the medievalized fantasy beliefs, this guy is not okay. And
Right.
the big point with his character is sort of exploring the nature versus nurture. Anyone
Yeah.
who looks at this character in the beginning is gonna be like, evil. Not
Yeah.
sure if it's lawful or chaotic, but evil, 100%. And so the exploration, because all of my characters are an exploration of something. The exploration here, Bruce was an exploration of accountability in the mundane. This guy is an exploration of accountability is involved, but it's identifying your flaws and going against your indoctrinations.
Yeah.
He's not evil because he wants to be evil. He's evil because he only knows the way. He only knows that way. He only
Right.
knows to be evil. Much in the way I don't speak German. It's not because I hate German. I just, why would I speak German? No one in my family speaks German. I don't live in Germany. I don't live in a German community. I wouldn't speak German. Anyone who
Right.
looks at him is going to be like, this guy's fucked up. This guy's whack. This guy's not okay. This guy is dangerous and unstable. But that's just how he was. That's just his world. That's how
Yeah.
he knows it.
That's
So it's an
that's his
exploration in him
prison. Yeah.
growing beyond that.
Yeah. And
Just
him
set
escaping the
so far
chrysalis
back.
of yeah. Him escaping the chrysalis of what made him
Yeah.
to become what he's going to be. Absolutely. I think that's I can't wait for that. That sounds like a beautiful story. And I think that making so as a player, as a person who plays D&D, playing an evil campaign, fun. Yeah, it's great. You know why it's fun? Because you can literally just do whatever, right? You can and you get to find out what you're okay with. Like that's kind of a neat thing, right? You get to like if you play an evil campaign, you get to be like, you know what? Like I was doing this evil stuff and I'm kind of not all right with it as a person, like as a me, you know? That character might
That's
like
how I
that.
play evil campaigns. I use them as the barometer and I just invert.
Yeah.
What would I do? Okay, now I'm going to do the opposite of that, but more violent.
Absolutely. And they can be a lot of fun, but like broadcasting that comes with a whole lot of danger because like, you know, in today's world, how do you illustrate something like your expression of this person being evil could be somebody's trauma. And like
Yeah.
nobody wants to be a trigger to somebody's trauma, but also we all have to be responsible for our own traumas and triggers. And it's a weird sort of dichotomy of like telling this story and like having fun and like risking that. And I'm not saying we're doing an evil campaign. For all rights, we're not. But
Yeah.
I know that definitely, you know, without getting too in depth to what any of our characters are doing thus far, because you're the first person to actually come on and be able to discuss a little bit about their character. Giving away a little bit about mine and yours, at least, is that neither of us starts out looking like the good guy.
Absolutely. We're
You
not.
know,
We're
yeah, we're
fucking
not.
not.
We're just not. Um,
But we're also,
so
neither of them are also the bad guy,
right
which
in
is
that,
one of the things that Jay is really doing in his narrative for this next campaign, too, because we try to be engaging and innovative. And one of the, honestly, this campaign wasn't as scary 2 or 3 years ago because, like my joke I made earlier, it's a new problem we've had for the last 2,000 years. That'll give you some idea of what sort of things I'm dealing with. But
yeah,
one of the problems we have is we're an American podcast, which doesn't mean that we're only American listeners,
right,
but most of our listeners probably will be because of grassroots advertising, etc.
Yeah, of
In
course.
our country, in the last 2 to 3 years, many of these sort of issues have become very, very real. When we first started talking about this almost 2 years ago, it was, yeah, like a comedian, right? Shine the light on it, bring it to light, confront it, overcome it. And now, as things continue to proceed, they've mellowed out a little bit. But as
Yeah,
things have continued to proceed, and it's not because they've gotten better, they're just less
right.
active.
Yeah,
Now it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I still want to say it, but now I got to be a lot more careful because there's a lot more people that you can hurt because a lot of
right,
people are already hurt.
right. And I think,
It's,
and I
walk up
think,
and gently poke you, which is fine, but there's wounds now. There wasn't
yeah,
wounds in this way before. There was bruises and there's and scars, but now it's like there's very real
mm,
problems. So
these are like
we,
open sores now. So
yeah,
careful where you're poking somebody.
a gentle poke is not okay when you're bleeding. Like
Right.
and so that's
Yeah,
one of the things that
it's
we've all of us had to address. And I know that's been a
yeah,
struggle with basically all of us because it's like, no, we want to do it. And in fact, the world climate being what it is, it's more important than ever to do it, but it's
right.
also more challenging than ever
Right.
to do it.
Making statements, making challenging statements and challenging the norm is definitely something that is difficult. And I think that I think it's crazy that we all kind of independently, because we didn't sit down and have a discussion about what we were gonna make. We just all were like, hey, we want to make characters. And I think like, and I think we did have a discussion with Jay, and I think that Jay probably has a part of sort of helping craft this. But I think at the end of the day, it is funny that we still relatively independently all came to this consensus of having these characters that are somewhat risky as far as the
Yeah.
expression of them. And I don't want to give away too much, but I want people to think about this moving forward into watching the next campaign. The idea that like when we start off, we're gonna see how you feel, and like there's definitely going to be some people that we might be touching on some sore spots, and I know that there's a lot of things that are challenging for me coming up, and I can't imagine how much of it's going to be challenging for you coming into it. But I'm very excited for it overall,
Yeah.
um, to see where it
And we've
goes
got
and
there's so
do
many
it.
factors too because it is such a complex social political like everything is just so complex too. Like I mean, just it's hard, it's hard and people are sore and people are touchy about things and like that's I think my biggest fear is honestly not pissing a bunch of people off. It's honestly not hurting people's feelings. It's not even making people feel bad. My biggest concern is the whole reason I'm doing this is much like Bruce because I modeled him after my ideals is I'm trying to sort of bring this to light, present it, and then offer how to work with that, how to overcome that, how to fix it. So my biggest fear is that that message is lost, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Again, the idea of
It's rough, guys.
reconciling
Like
some of
that's the
your own
point.
ideas.
We're setting the scene. Like this is rough. We understand as our listener and this is a big DM problem. Not necessarily with Jay, but just with all DMs. I'm gonna fuck you real bad right now. It's gonna be really bad from time to time because I need to set that stage. I need to set that deep shadow for your light to shine from. And I
Yeah,
think that our next campaign is going to be phenomenal because I have very high faith in all of our narrative capabilities, but we're starting from a very dark place. And
yeah,
that dark place got too real very recently, very much too real for a lot of people in a lot of ways. And I think that we'll do good
absolutely.
by it. But my biggest fear is that people come in during the dark and they're not willing or able to wait for the light. And I understand that. But if that's the case, then that sucks because the real goal, I think, for all of us is that light, is shining that beacon out of the darkness.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that we hit that. And that's the big
Yeah,
juggle for all of
absolutely.
us.
Absolutely. I think that it is challenging as any version of storyteller. And like, we've begun to really embrace this thing at Torchlit Tavern as a whole, that storytelling is what we do. Right. And it's challenging as any version of storytelling to make a compelling story without risking putting some things in there
You got a
that
wager? It's all a bet. You got to wager.
Yeah, you gotta wager putting some things in there that aren't nice, that aren't fun, and aren't happy, and like
How
is
awesome is it to win on the penny slots, right?
right,
Ah, yeah,
like
it's fun. I got like 3 cents.
and like you gotta risk that for a good developed story. You have to put that in there so that people can, so that you can kind of connect with that to a certain extent, so that you can to deepen the overall feeling of the story. You have to risk putting in some tones that are like not friendly, and you have to ride this line of being gratuitous too, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm going to put this in there, but like if I put, but it has to be tasteful. And I think that it's even more complex now that when you're talking in the confines of cooperative storytelling, which is what we're doing, where each of us
Yeah.
have like this element we're bringing. We're like, hey, this is what I'm putting in the soup, and you got to be like, are you sure that's going to taste good? And you're like, listen, if it blends well, it's going to be phenomenal. But,
If not, we're gonna throw the whole pot in the trash. We're not
yeah,
even gonna wash it.
yeah,
Just gonna throw the whole thing out the front door.
yeah, just get rid of it because
Yeah.
it's contaminated everything. Yeah. And like,
In terms of podcasts, too, one of my concerns is I am not on your team
yeah,
in the beginning. I am absolutely your enemy. My
yeah,
character would cut your character's throat and feel like he did a good job. And Jay knows that. And you
yeah,
guys know that. And that's I know that's one of the big juggles that we're doing is my character wants to grow. But one of the big problems that I've seen in the real world too, and that I'm afraid of in this campaign. Now we have control in the campaign, so it's easy. But people
right.
need a way to grow. They need a space to grow. They need a motivation to grow. They need a
Catalyst.
reason to question
Yeah,
why they should, how they can. And so that's I've been working with Jay a lot on that, and I've been working with you guys a lot on that to sort of set things up in such a way that
yeah,
my character, whose normal operative directive would be to kill as many of you as possible on the way out because you're not going to survive, is here to stay for a reason.
right. Yeah, I,
I think we've
and
got it nailed down, but I know that made Jay real uncomfortable for a really long time
yeah,
because my
and
character is so amoral compared to like even villains. Even villains would look at this guy and be like, "Homie, you gotta chill, dude.
yeah, what's your
That's not
motivation, man? Like, what is
okay.
the yeah?
There's gotta
Now,
be a world to rule, dude." Like,
I think that is I know that there's probably something still in the back of his mind where he's like, well, let's hope we pull this off right and make it feel natural, and like a concern for us all to a certain extent, and we just got to kind of see where everything takes us, because I don't think any of us are coming into this with characters that are team players, and like obviously we have experience with that. Like our last campaign, not a single one of
yeah,
those people was team players. Like nobody was. But uh, you know, where are we going to take that? How are we going to change it? How are we going to present something different is a huge part of this, right? Like we are presenting something different, but how is it going to feel different in such a way where it's like those are a bunch of guys who weren't team players and like never even really felt completely like team players, but got along, you know? They're a bunch
yeah.
of guys who at no
They
point did
were at
they,
least on the same mission. They
right.
were they had the same directive, and that was one of me and Jay's original big concerns. Is my directive is literally to destroy you
Yeah,
initially, like where I'm coming from.
right.
I am here to wreck your. The villain's like, there's got to be a world to rule, and my character's like, and if there's no world, you can't rule it. And one of the big
Yeah,
explorations of this character and the big like toss up issues of this character is what is good. He's saving the world,
right.
and
The
and
difference between
much like
objective and
Thanos,
subjective.
his his system is a solution to the problems.
Yeah.
But much like Thanos, that doesn't mean it's a good solution. It's a solution, and it's
Yes.
a terrifying solution.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I mean, and I, you know, it's, ooh, I feel like we're almost like I know that we're not giving away a lot, but at the same time, we're we're giving people a lot here to work with. Uh, so like
I'm
I
not
wanna
gonna
definitely.
lie. I'm using this for me as an extended opportunity for me to sort of soften the blow of my next character too. Because like
Yeah,
I've said
absolutely.
many times now, that's one of the big things of my
Yeah,
next character
absolutely.
is like
Well, and I
have
think
faith in
that's
me. Have faith in me as a storyteller. I don't think this is okay. I know this is not okay. I am setting the groundwork of not okay so we can grow to okay.
I get it, I get it, and like I
It's
said, I
like
don't think we're
gardening.
giving away
This
too
is the
much.
shit you
Go
plant in. You want to grow fruit, but you start with shit and a seed.
on.
Please understand, I am not trying to feed you manure.
Absolutely, and I get that, and like, hey, I think that's what we're all gonna an opportunity we're all gonna get. Um, and I don't feel like we've given away a lot, but we've definitely got given given people a mouthful to taste in this about what's coming up with your character and several characters to a certain extent, and like where the world's gonna be, uh, as far as what we're doing in it. Uh, so I think really I think like moving into this last final stage, because we probably won't be on for much longer. The last stage of this sort of this interview, this talk we're having, is the question of, you've talked about your character and what kind of excites you and worries you about that, but and we've talked about how the world's going to grow, but what is, as we're moving into this next campaign, as we're moving into this next uh this updated world, what are some of the things outside of your character, outside of your perspective of the world, that you're like, this is something I can't wait to see, or like something from maybe the first campaign that you're hoping to resolve that didn't feel as resolved as maybe as it could have.
That's classified information that I am not at liberty to state. I have been informed by my superiors that this information is beyond the spectrum of what is commonly known and to be relegated only to a need to know basis. But know that I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Okay.
I,
Okay.
I, so I am super stoked about a few things that none of you know and none of the listeners know, and none of you can know.
Fantastic. I love that. I love
But
that.
a long time ago, in a world far, far away, things were set in motion. I'm curious to see how they play out. And also,
Absolutely.
like, I'm curious. I want to see what the side effects of all of our characters are. How they've, are we gonna meet Roy again? Are we gonna meet Dylan again? Are we gonna meet Sandra and Mullion? You know who we're not gonna meet? Canton. And I'm curious to see what effects all of those people have had on the world. But so I make that joke about not seeing Canton because he's dead, right? But you don't see Bruce, but he's dead also. But you can, and I have faith in Jay's ability to write that into the world. That the effect of that entity moves beyond its expressed presence. Bruce died, but when Bruce died, the party, like one of the things that Jay and I were really worried about is how the party would react to that. Like, was it too big of a hit? Could they or would they grow enough? And you guys did, and it was awesome. Like to see how the party all sort of broke themselves down a little bit and then restructured themselves as a group because there was a piece missing and it did have to be filled and it was never going to be filled the same. And three parts will never equal four parts, but make it be good enough. So I'm curious to see how Jay carries that same ideology forward. Bruce is gone, yes, but he set things in motion. Canton is gone, yes, but his death also set things in motion. A lot of things have been set in motion, and I'm curious to see how that continues to grow. Also, I've just been watching this anthology of Jay's World for a long ass time, so it's cool to
Yeah.
watch. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say you have you have a real specific spot you're sitting in, having been the only person to have been playing in his world for, according to Jay, 12 years now,
yeah,
and
on and
and
off,
like,
but yeah,
yeah, but still for 12 years, right? Like, you brought it up right there, which is something that I touched on earlier, but didn't even think about for this upcoming campaign, which is the idea of like, there are things that you see that we have never seen, right? There's stuff like
Yeah.
you're like, I see the antecedent to this, what is hundreds of years ago by comparison to where we are now. And like
Yeah.
I see a lot more, from your perspective, you see a lot more than what any of us do. And to think
That's
about
one of
that,
the things that's been kind of funny for me when we're talking about having these no dice chats, right? Jay's like, "You don't know that much. Don't worry about it." And I'm like, "Jay, I know who is. I know that.
yeah.
I know about the time that went to Santitas and when they and the and all the happened."
Yeah.
I was muted long as I meant to be. I think Jay did Jay mute me? I think Jay muted me. He of little faith. But that's been one of the ironic things for me is I know that this person did that. I know that this person is why this is.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Don't worry about it. You guys don't know much." And I'm like, "I know, homie. I've been talking to you about your world so long. I know shit that happened 3 years before this shit happened that I saw 10 years ago. Like, I need a barometer, my dude, because I don't know what matters."
Yeah. No. Yeah,
Once
as
upon
Jay said in the
once
chat, no
upon a
joke, you know
time, a
too much.
whole party was wiped because fuck that monk, except the monk. I don't think that story will matter. I feel safe saying that. But like, it's just I know things, man. I got the deep state tinfoil on. Like, I don't know what to not say. Like when you declassify people, right? And you're like, okay, now don't say anything you're not supposed to. And they're like, my last everything. I'm just gonna not talk.
Don't say anything you're not supposed to. Well,
I
that'll
don't
be
even know what I'm
difficult.
not supposed to anymore.
Yeah, all right. Just don't talk. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna take the safe route. Hit that mute button. Smile. Look pretty.
Well, Jay's about to send in the dudes with the suits to come and take you because you've said a bit too much. But before they come for you, uh,
They'll never find me.
perfect. They'll never find you.
They'll never find me.
Uh, well, before they start looking for you and you go on the bull, not the lamb, who knows? Uh, I want to say thank you for being able to make it. I know that you're a very busy man, and I know that that being the only dad on the podcast makes it difficult to pull out time for stuff like this. And I'm glad that you were able to do that. So again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for this discussion. That's been great. And I can't wait to see. I can't wait for our viewers and our listeners to see the next step.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's gonna be great. And during our Christmas app, I actually got to sort of test play a hostile party member. Complete accident. But like I realized that after I was talking to Jay, and he's like, "Oh shit, that was it." We agreed that worked really well. So that was really the last thing that I was worried about with the podcast was sort of my interactions, and I feel like we're super solid. I'm super excited to see what we do. I'm super like I
Yeah.
know what you guys are doing, but I'm excited to see what you guys do, right?
Right.
It's like when
Yeah.
somebody's baking. I know you're baking cookies, but there's cookies and then there's cookies, and I don't know what's going to happen, right?
I don't
It's
know if they're
so
gonna be chocolate chunk. I
yeah,
don't
I
know if
know the
they're gonna
recipe
be.
you've got. I know the ingredients you're supposed to use, and I know that in theory it turns out good or it wouldn't be a recipe, but we're just going to have to see. And
Yeah,
that's
we're
kind of
just
how I
gonna have to
feel like
see.
this next whole arc is.
Oh
It's got
yeah,
a lot of potential. There's still a lot of variables, a lot of opportunity for people to take something and make it their own. And I'm super stoked. The party dynamic is solid. It's gonna be awesome.
yeah. I definitely can't wait either, and I know that we've got some twists and turns planned for our listeners and for each other. And I can't wait to be thrown off by what we do to ourselves and as and to our party, and I can't wait to like live in that world. And I know we're gonna start hashing things out soon, but oh, until then, we'll be here talking about what comes next. And even after that, maybe
Well,
we'll talk about some more things. We'll be able to touch on it a little better after the debut, maybe. So again, thanks for coming, Mitch.
yep, there it is. Not allowed to be on video anymore. Nothing live. Jay is taking auditions. And with that, everyone, have a good night. If I don't see you again, you'll know why. It's great
Have
to
a good
chat
night,
with
all.
you,
Thanks for
Jeff.
tuning in.
Have a good night, everyone.